has pushed back against the new method of distribution. Its communications director recently telling a UK broadcaster, quote, "We fundamentally oppose this new plan, which we understand is supported by both the governments of Israel and the United States," saying there is a system in place that we can use, including through UNRWA. Why reinvent the wheel? UNRWA's Juliette Touma joins me now from Amman, Jordan. Juliette, when we look at this, as Jeremy just laid out for us here, one of the major concerns is the limited number of sites here and it being safe for not only aid trucks to get to where they need to be, but also for civilians to get to where that aid is being distributed. Have any of those concerns, in your view, really been received, and are they being dealt with?
Thanks for having me. I don't think so. This is one of several issues that this plan has. We understand 3 or 4 distribution sites, whereas the UN, including UNRWA and other humanitarian organizations, we ran around 400 distribution sites that were spread out the Gaza Strip.
As you noted, you have said, why reinvent the wheel here, right? Why not at least engage aid organizations and specifically UNRWA in terms of laying out a new system if this is what is wanted? There has not been any engagement with you, as far as I know, unless something has changed in the last several hours. What do you believe that could have changed in terms of aid distribution had there been coordination with aid groups who are familiar with working on the ground there?
Look, this plan that's put in place by the governments of Israel and the United States is a distraction from the atrocities that are happening right now to the people of Gaza, to the women, to the children, to the older people. There is a system in place. Why reinvent the wheel means very simply, the United Nations has been able to bring in between 500 to 600 trucks every single day, not only of food, by the way, but also other basic supplies like medicines and hygiene kits, right? So let's go back to that, which we were able to implement and deliver during the ceasefire just at the beginning of this year.
As I know you're well aware, Juliette, Israel has said they want to ensure that the aid itself is only getting to civilians, that it will not reach Hamas. And they believe that UNRWA can, in fact, guarantee that the aid will end up in the right hands. What's your response to that?
Look, we heard these statements, these claims several times in the UN, including in UNRWA. We have mechanisms in place to monitor where the aid goes. We deliver assistance directly from UNRWA, United Nations civil servants, to people in need. A few days ago, we had David Satterfield, who was a US envoy here on CNN, saying himself that this was not happening. And so I think, again, it's a distraction. It's a diversion from the atrocities. There's a system in place. It's very capable. We don't do this, by the way, only in Gaza. We do this everywhere around the world when there is humanitarian needs. We can do this in Gaza too, as we have been.
What do you believe would change where things stand? And when I say that, I mean in terms of there being an appetite for cooperation, if you will, and an appetite to, or a desire even to allow more aid in. What do you think could tip the scales in the favor of more aid being allowed in and at broader distribution sites? Would it be pressure from the U.S.? Would it be pressure from other governments? We heard some very strong words, of course, from the Chancellor of Germany earlier this week. Do you believe any of that would have an impact?
We have to go back at the very minimum to where we were in January this year. For a couple of months, we were able, first of all, to have a ceasefire, so finally respite for the people of Gaza, and then a huge flow of humanitarian supplies managed by the UN, including UNRWA, and the release of the hostages. We got to go back to some sort of a deal that is going to lay the ground for improvement, improving the lives of people today, and most importantly, to stop the bombardment and stop the airstrikes.
Are you hopeful that there will be a ceasefire that can be agreed to?
I'm always hopeful, we thrive on hope in the sort of work that we do. Are we close? I don't know. I think it's long overdue. This must come to an end. There must be a release of all the hostages so that they reunite with their families. There must be a final respite to stop the bombardment on the people of Gaza. And there must be a flow of very, very basic humanitarian supplies at the scale we had at the beginning of the year. It's not too much to ask. We were there, we could do it. So let's go back to that at least.
Juliette Touma, appreciate you joining us. Thank you.